Okay, my friends, as you're going to see, this is Roger once again, and as you're going to see, light can be accelerated, light can slow down, light is a particle. These are the Higgs fields. Light in its accelerated phase can actually concuss at a venturi and separate, and it's called fission, and that's fusion. And this is cold with no added energy, and the increase in energy is approximately 200 times the input power. So we should be able to get free energy, as I'm going to show you quite clearly. And this is the particle that is light. This means a ton. Here's light slowing down or speeding up, however you want to take it. It's much closer there than it is here. That's a click of a one particle spinning to the right, means it would drift to the left. So what we just saw is a complete upheaval of physics. Now, I have been touting this for 50 years. Intermolecular forces there's only two types, and they're dipole-dipoles. And they basically, we'll get into that later. It's about gases and solids and so forth. And what I wrote down here was something that is prophetic. The transfer of energy from light is to atomic vapor. Never has it made more sense to me than it does now. So we're transferring energy. Energy, that's power, that's glow, that's energy. We're transferring it from light to atomic vapor. And there it is right there. 50 years ago I wrote that, and that was my dipole theory, that there was nothing but dipoles. There's absolutely no possible way that the center of a nucleus could be just one big gigantic positive. It was insane, and it made me leave physics because nobody would talk about it. And it's still to this day the same thing. So I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to put out a request for somebody to help me to get this information out. Otherwise, it's never going to get anywhere. And we can get free energy today, which I will show this another time, about 500 times more. And this is nothing more than the cheapest lasers you can get, putting through a nothing, zero cost venturi into extremely cheap solar collectors and enhancing the power hundreds of times. That means free energy. All you have to do is put it down into some kind of storage device, or right into a car or a heater or air conditioner, or lights to grow food under, water pumps, rescue equipment. You can carry these out in the woods. There's no power grid necessary. Handheld devices, just put little plugs in them and you're good to go. Now, let's get into it. Okay, my outstanding friends, let me prepare you. If you're not a thinker, you might as well click off and go somewhere else right now, because you're going to be thinking if you stick with me today. Okay, my friends, we're going to go into a real deep discussion of what CO2 is and why is it bad for our environment, and is it really bad for our environment, and is it strictly the CO2, or is it a combination of things? And I can tell you right up front, it's a combination of things. Now, before I get started, I've been doing this for many, many, many years, and my theories are now shown to be true. And I've had a few people inquiring about doing a documentary on the research that I did and sort of present it in a more, a better way than I do. I just sort of slam it out there, and I'm not getting any real interest from a large audience. I have a very small audience, but they're very dedicated, and they see what I'm doing, and they understand it. And the people that don't understand it have not taken the time to look at it. So we need a documentary, something done nicely. And so I want to select from somebody that will do a nice job presenting what I need to present so we can save the earth, literally save the earth. I'm not kidding. CO2 emissions, they're not good for the earth, correct, but it's not because it's carbon. It's because of the expansion of the gases. I'm going to explain this very well, showing electron flood theory, and that light is particles. Let's start with that. Light is a particle. Until you understand that, not a single thing will make sense. Okay, my friends, Roger once again, and today I've made a decision that there's no way to get this to the general public without doing a book and a documentary. Somebody's going to have to do a documentary. Now, I've had a couple people contact me about it. I don't know about any of them at this point, but I want somebody credible and hopefully somebody really good to do a documentary on my research, including the light and the mud fossils and the chemistry and the whole 9 yards, because it needs to be brought out into the open. And one of the main reasons is we get free energy. I'm telling you right now, we should be able to get free energy very, very quickly using this accelerated light, creating this fission and fusion, and using this very, very simple device. We should be able to harvest literally free energy, portable, no grid, no wires to plug into. Just plug your devices in anywhere in the world, in the woods, in the caves, in the ocean, if it's watertight, obviously. And we should be able to get copious amounts of energy, grow food, clean the water, heat our houses, fix the roads, fix everything. Drive your cars, never have to get gasoline. I know they're going to be all upset in the oil industry. Well, maybe they will be. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you what, you're going to be upset when there's no food to eat and there's no water to drink and everybody's dying because we need to burn things, and we're burning it and we're destroying the earth right now. So I need somebody to do a documentary. I will write the book. I'm going to have to do it. Otherwise, it's just never going to get known. So today I'm going to just go through why this is so important. Because right now they're lost, literally lost, at what is causing the heat and the destruction of our environment. They don't understand light. They don't understand electron flood theory. And right now it's fully understood the Bohr model doesn't work of atomic nucleus and all that. Absolutely doesn't work. It never did work. And I did this research 50 years ago, and I said there's no such thing as a huge positive core. It has to be made of dipoles, which are the electrons. And now they realize, yes, and a muon and an electron neutrino basically make up an electron. And then two of these together make up a photon. And that's what I'm showing right in my research. Right here, we're going to see it today. And then we're going to understand why the Earth is in such terrible, terrible situation it's in. And it's because of these particles right here coming from the sun that we are scrubbing through. It's not really, it's partially related to carbon dioxide, but it's not the carbon. All right, this is info on carbon emissions and climate change. They think it's all related to the carbon. Now, that's because when you burn something, you create carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is an expansion gas. That's the key, it's the expansion. Now, they focus in on everything has to do with carbon dioxide's effects on the atmosphere. And yes, I agree with that, but it's not due to the fact that it's carbon. It's due to the fact that it's expansion. And the only thing that can create energy with no expansion is electricity. All right, this is phys.org, and they're talking about Earth's highest atmospheric layer. Space weather can really heat things up. I'm going to explain that in 1 second. This just came out a couple days ago. Now, again, I talked about electricity is the only thing that doesn't create expansion. Well, it will create expansion to a degree because it'll create heat at some point. But it doesn't create, if you can create electricity without burning something, then you're good to go. But normally they have to burn the gases and the oil and the coal and all that to create the heat to make the electricity. Now, we're doing it by forcing laser light to create the muons and the bosons and the electron showers. And that creates fission and fusion, which is nuclear energy. It supposedly increases the energetic value 200 times. So from 5 watts, we should go to 1,000 watts. If we shoot 5 watts back in to keep the laser going, that gives us like 900 watts extra, whatever, a ton of watts. Even if we only could harvest half, or even 25%, we'd still be getting back hundreds of watts of power for free. So this has to be done. That's my email, and I want somebody to do a documentary on this, and I will back it up with a book. And we need to get this done. And I need to get my research about the mud fossils done too, because this is another area that's fully not understood, which are history and geology and everything else. That everything petrifies in a manner from nucleophilic substitution. They don't understand this at all now. So geology, history, physics, our environment is all in disarray now, because academia has entrenched itself so deeply in the past that it cannot deal with the reality of the situation they find themselves in, because the people that are in control will fire the people that speak up. And I have been blocked from every site there is. I'm on every spam list there is. I cannot get anything out. That's why I need a book and I need a documentary. This is a complete academic shutdown of reality for their own self-interest. Now, I'm sorry I have to keep going down that road, but there is no question about it. I have every bit of evidence to support every word I'm saying, and not to have it even allowed to be seen, have zero interaction from the people that we rely on. That is a critical failure in this system of follow the leader. And I never did, and I never will, and you should not either. Okay, I've been reporting that the Earth is scrubbing through the particles that are in space, and now they finally agree. And here's where they come down to here. It says they know that the outer atmosphere here, in the ionosphere, the thermosphere, is 2,700 degrees, way out there. And then you come in closer to the Earth and it goes down to like minus 30 degrees or minus 60 degrees. Why is it so way hot out here? Well, it's because we're scrubbing through the particles in space, in addition to hitting it with sunlight. And they have a new solar collector thing that they're watching down on the Earth, and they say, yes, there's more heating than we can account for by the sunlight. And here it is right here. The new findings point to some heating not driven by sunlight. So something out there is heating up our atmosphere, and it is not driven by sunlight, but instead is by the solar wind. Yes, the particles and magnetic fields continuously escaping the sun. They're not magnetic fields, they're particles. Yes, particles. Because everything that has a magnetic field that surrounds it is a particle. This is what they miss. So the solar wind is always blowing, but stronger gusts can disturb Earth's magnetic atmosphere. And that's true, because there's not necessarily stronger gusts of magnetic storms on the sun, but yes, absolutely. However, in addition to that, we could be encountering a new region in space which it has just more dense amounts of particles in it. It's that simple. All right. Where the International Space Station is, it gets really hot out there. So I decided I want to know how they're surviving and what the different surfaces are and how they get hot. And here's what they have to say. It's on Earth, the temperatures vary a lot, from 50 degrees centigrade or higher in the deserts to minus 50 degrees, lower in Arctic regions. However, Earth's atmosphere helps to spread heat around. It usually gets cooler at night or in the shade. Obviously, the sunlight is not hitting it, but not much cooler, because you have that stored heat. The temperature on the side of the International Space Station facing the sun can reach up to 121 degrees centigrade. That's pretty hot. The side facing away from the sun can go as low as 157 below. It's a difference of almost 300 degrees centigrade from this surface to this surface, and the people have to live in between. So they have to figure out a way to make it survivable. The side facing away from the sun can go way down. The difference is 300 degrees. People cannot live in temperatures that high or low in these extreme temperatures. So I have been studying biology as well. I study everything. It's just a compulsion. And I have found out that enzymes and catalysts, which are the things that break down all the products in your body and make the products that you need to survive, they don't work well after 37 degrees Celsius. So I look up 37 degrees Celsius, and it's 98.6 degrees. That's exactly body temperature. Well, obviously, they have some relation to body temperature, enzymes and catalysts. And I know that the enzymes and catalysts are the only thing that convert products in your body into usable products. They are the things that are the chemists, and these are the bacteria. So now I say to myself, well, is it just the enzymes and the catalysts don't work, or is it the bacteria that says, hey, you get me too hot, I'm not working, I'm done. I'm not squirting out any more enzymes and catalysts, and I think that's the case. It's that bacteria is being affected. Now, this is what we have to do, is do some experiments with bacteria at certain levels. Do they create these different, we have to attack them with something and then see, do they emit something as a response? Now, when you get up over that temperature, do they just not emit it anymore, or do they still emit it, but the actual molecule doesn't have enough energy or has too much energy or whatever at that temperature? Because temperature is a huge difference, and all it is there's a whole ton of extra electrons when you get real hot, and there's very few electrons when you get cold. And the truth of the matter is that something weighs more when it's hot than when it's cold. And the reason is it's flushed with electrons. Electrons have weight. Electrons are not nothing. They have a weight to them. And if you flush enough of them into something and make it very hot, it will become heavier. Now, if it's a gas, it will expand and it will go up, totally separate from being a solid object. If I heat this up, it will go down. If I cool this down, it will get lighter. And I know this is 100% fact. No question whatsoever this is true. And I know this because I ran into this 40 years ago at the Weights and Measures Department with very, very precise weights we had to have calibrated every couple of years for legal trade. And when I took them up there, they were cold, and I had to leave them there because the guy said they have to be room temperature or they will never weigh correctly. And at that time, I was perplexed. He said they have no idea why, but that's just a fact, and I had to leave them. So I have to leave them. So over the course of my working more and more with electronics, because that's what my whole life was, working with electronics on a very, very deep level. And I realized that all heat is electrons flooding into something, and it's electron flood theory is what I call it. And when they come out, it gets colder. And absolute zero means there's no extra electrons in there whatsoever. Absolute zero is I can't get any colder. So I can't pull any more electrons out. And that means it becomes superconducting. As soon as I hit it with electricity, they go in there like a rocket ship because it says, give me everything you got, baby. And boom. However, as soon as that starts, there becomes a pushback. It's the resistance factor. And the only way you can keep it superconducting is to keep it that cold. And you can't keep it that cold without using more energy than you're going to get back by making it superconducting. It cannot work. All right, and it's strictly because of electrons fill the void of holes. If you have nothing but holes, it will just superconduct into them until they're filled, or they start to build up, and then it will not just be pushing back, push to shove, push to shove, push to shove. All right, so why do I say everything ties in together? Listen, when you get cold, it's a whole different situation. Now, does the bacteria in your body not be able to survive in a range when it gets too cold? They call it hypothermia, because all kinds of things happen. You get numb and your nose runs, and your body temperature drops to a certain temperature. Is it the bacteria in your body that can't continue to function at that temperature? I mean, this is just, there's no help at the end of this other than to stay warm. But I'd certainly like to know, is it your body that's giving out, or is it the bacteria in your body that says, it's too cold for me to work today, I'm not working? And then when that happens, you can't break down, you can't get your oxygen, you can't get your nutrients, you can't get your glucose, you can't get all those things. They pick up the trash and deliver the good stuff. They're the delivery agents, they're the chemists, they do everything. And I believe that's the case. And because all kinds of things happen. You start getting numb, and I think it's all related to temperature, but the temperature, we know it's related to temperature. But why? Why is it related to temperature? Is it just because there's not enough electrons in the system? Maybe you could boost yourself by getting electrified, put a little electricity in. I've been using this TENS machine, which sends electricity into my back because I have a lot of back pain. And I was thinking to myself the other day, is it the electrons that are doing the work now that helps? Because it does help. And the heat helps too. Heat is nothing more than electrons. So I'm thinking maybe it's just pushing electrons in, or is it the heat? And then I remembered back to my research on mud fossils and working with the anatomist and fascia. And he said to me, he said, fascia is the coating of all your organs and all your membranes and all your muscles and your tendons and everything. And everything has to slide through that fascia like it's a slimy, gluey coating. But it's slimy, but it's still gooey. But it has to be flexible. Now, he says when he does autopsies, he can tell if a guy had back pain. And I said, how can you tell that? And he said, because the fascia that runs down the back, he says, if I could take my finger and slide it through there and it separates, fairly simple. He said, I know that guy's got nice, flexible, moving back. Everything's going to move around easily. But if I push my finger in there and I can't get it through, and he says, some people, I have to cut it with a scalpel. He said, I know that guy is in pain 24 hours a day. And I fully understand it now. Because everything, the fascia fibers have to be flexible and movable because they're pulling your bones. They're pulling at your bones. And they're wrapping all your system together. And once they harden up and they stiffen up, where you should be going, oh, okay, baby, let's go. And that's how I feel all the time, my back. Now, again, the heat and the TENS machine, both of those are electrical. Now, are they just putting extra electrons in my system, or are they liquefying that fascia slime? Really, it should be a slimy coating that coats everything, because fascia is nothing more than a membrane that keeps you separated from the rest of the world. And when that membrane just hardens up like a rock, you're just fighting against it, and that's going to be painful. All right, so you see how things tie together? It's amazing when you start digging down the rabbit holes how deep it goes. I mean, it really is. But until you understand electron flood theory, nothing will make sense. Exactly like if you don't understand mud fossils, that all living creatures can turn into stone in the correct conditions. Even cellulose, which really doesn't turn into stone very easily because salts destroy cellulose. It does not have the collagen. Collagen is only in animals, and that is what protects them in salt waters. That's why salt protects things from eroding and decaying. And these are mud fossils, and in a certain condition, and it happens to be right on where my property is. All these came off my property. They petrify where at the fascia level or at the outside level, whatever meets another surface, skin, periosteum, which is what they all used to call tunica, which wraps the bones. It's a membrane. All the membranes, even this here. Here it is. This I had DNA certified as human. You see that, the back of it there, how flat that is? And I took the blood out of it, right down in the red bloody areas down in here, and sent it off. Now, they did not extract the blood. I did it. But this is a lung, and I've had it checked, and it's been CAT scanned and everything else. You can't see a whole lot in the CAT scan because this is nucleophilic invasion. But the blood does not get invaded. The blood is the toughest stuff there is. Absolutely amazing. So if you don't understand nucleophilic substitution and you don't understand transition metals, which are in the blood, you cannot understand nucleophilic substitution in biology, which is happening to you every second of the day. They don't even realize this right now. This is just a brand new science of understanding how biology even works. I'm serious. What in your body, every second of every day, every molecule in your body is transitioning. It's transitioning. It's giving stuff and taking stuff. And these are the transitioners. Transition metals right in here. They can grab a hold of, they call it ligands. They can pinch little bits and pieces and carry them over and drop them off, take this down to the trash, bring this in for something good, bring a little oxygen here and there, and they move through the bloodstream with all these metals attaching and detaching. These are called transition metal complexes. And they create all the very fancy colors in some areas. Now, in my area, I don't get the fancy colors. I have mud fossils, and they're basically like mud, and they call them mud rock, and then inside, and this is fascia. See that? That's a new species as far as I'm concerned. They're no-toes, and we have tons of these. There's a lot of them, and it has a regular place where your bone goes, just like us, and then where the fibia goes here, the tibia, and then the fibia, and the blood vessels now, exact same places. Everything's the same, except inside here they have springs instead of tendons. And we have these eroded down inside. We can see every little bit and piece inside, and they were constructed. Somebody built these. So there's a lot to understand here, and I need somebody to do a documentary so that we show all of this, because everything has to be shown in relation to everything else. But we got to start with the absolute basic of everything, which is, what is everything made of? What's matter made out of? And it's all made out of little tiny bits, electrons, which has a dark side to it. That's the key they never know. They always thought an electron just an explosive little glowy, pushy, hot little thing that would create a lightning and static and electricity and do some work. Yes, it will, absolutely. It's a pusher and a shower. However, it's got a dark side. Nobody's ever seen it before. And that's what this is, a muon. They call it a muon now. Well, let me put it this way. CERN and those guys see it because they have the equipment that they can see these high energy particles, and we do too. We have the exact same thing. They're using CMOS photography equipment. That's complementary metal oxide semiconductor silicates. And they pick up high energy particles. You can use your cell phone right now to do cosmic ray detection, and that's all muons are, is cosmic ray emitters that emit muons. No difference whatsoever what CERN's doing in us, except that we are using light. They're using gigantic things, exploding them like mountains of debris, and they see these particles. They have no clue where they came from. I'm showing you where they came from, and I've shown it over and over and over, and as a result, I've been blocked. So I need to show this. This is for humanity. This has nothing to do with me. I don't want to make any money at all. I couldn't care less about the money. This is to do with reality and truth, and hopefully we can save the planet. If this works, there it is right there. And we could have this running within a couple of weeks. Lasers, you get a dime a dozen. Venturi, free. Solar collectors, they're all over the place, but we need little better ones. But we could get started with something right now, because if we can increase this 200 times, even if we can get 20% back here, which is about what they're getting, we should be able to get 1/5 of this 2,000, so that'd be 200. So we put 5 in, we get 200 back. We still got 195 free, because we put 5 back into here to keep it going. Now, you need a little circuitry down here to do it, but in the whole thing, because of the enormous increase in energy, absolutely gigantic. You could have this to power a house, a car, a boat, a train, airplane, something. I mean, obviously, you just have to scale it up depending upon how much juice you needed, but this should be adequate, probably something this size, power a car. You never have to stop. You never have to stop driving, ever. And it would be non-polluting, and it would not create expansion gases. That's the key. That's what we have to stop right now. And that's the other thing they don't understand, is the expansion is causing our heat. Okay, you've heard that I'm saying that it is not necessarily carbon that is the issue. The issue is the expansion of the gases. And carbon obviously is an expansion gas, carbon dioxide, from burning fossil fuels. Yes, the carbon is in the fossil fuel, and the expansion is taking something solid and turning it into all little particles that are all separate. It expands our envelope of gases, and that increases the scrub against the particles that are in space. We're spinning through these particles, colliding with our particles, stimulating tons of extra heat. Exactly what they said. There's extra heat that they can't account for. It's the scrub of our particles against all the particles in the vacuum of space, which is not a vacuum. It is saturated with what they call now the solar wind. Well, it's actually light, photons, dust, yes, all kinds of particles, but it's not empty, absolutely not empty. And this is why the scrub is 2,700 degrees out here. This is hotter than can be. And the sun is the same thing. On the surface of the sun, it's 7,000. Well, guess what it's out here on the corona? Millions. Same reason. It is scrubbing through the particles of space because we are being ripped through the galaxy through all of these particles. It's got to be millions of miles an hour as far as I can assume, because the whole galaxy is spinning very, very fast compared to the way you'd think about it, and therefore we are pushing our way through that particle cloud. And sometimes that particle cloud could be dense. Sometimes it could be almost nothing there. We don't know, but I can see that there is different densities, and I'll show you that right now in the galaxy. And don't forget, we are here being ripped through the galaxy. As we additionally spin, and the sun spins and we spin, so it's a total chaos through these particles that was like a soup. We never, well, they knew years ago, Plato knew, they called it ether. And it's just nothing more than the sunlight. Those are particles. I showed you they're particles. Light is light, light is a particle. That case is closed. Wherever they go, we have to scrub through them. And they come from every luminous body in the solar system, well, in the galaxy, or in the universe. Okay. Now don't forget, every single little light particle you see here is something that's glowing and giving off electrons and photons, because if you can see it, that's what it's doing. It's emanating some kind of energy at us. Now, you see everything spinning this way. Well, what's really happening is the galaxy is being scrubbed by the non-vacuum of space pushing these particles, trying to force these electron particles against these. And they say, no, we have enough over here, you stay your side. And they create a black stripe between each push-to-shove line, exactly like I showed you on my light acceleration on the other side, which they call the interference patterns. These are repulsion patterns. This has plenty of energy, stay away from me. This has enough energy, stay away from me, stay away from me, stay away, stay away, stay away, stay away. And that's why you see these stripes. And they get stripier and stripier as they get closer and closer, and then they turn into a gigantic ball of energy in the center. And in the center of that will be the dark matter. The white, glowy, extremely energetic particles will be forced to the outside, and the extremely dark matter, which is gravitational, which is what's causing this all to spin in the first place, will be in the inside. And that's what electron flood theory predicts, and that's absolutely what's happening. In my mind, maybe I'm wrong. Prove me I'm wrong. Prove it to me. Show me I am wrong. Now, let's see what we are doing moving through one of these arms, because we could be here and going into a sort of a darkish area, or we could be here going into a completely dark area and be in good shape, or we could be here and coming into a really glowy area and be in really bad shape, because it depends on our impact as we flow through space. And what do we look like when we're flowing through space? Well, here's what it looks like. Okay, so here's what it looks like where we're being pulled through the arm of the galaxy. Now, that is the sun spinning and being pulled forward. You see the little scuffy stuff coming off the side? That's really what they would consider the solar winds. See it? And that's because it's pushing against us. Now, the solar wind is coming back at us. We're trying to catch up because that has a lot of dark matter in it. Dark matter is the gravitational part that I showed you, and everything has this and that. And when you get enough of it together, it will force the dark matter into the center. Of course, nobody's ever seen it. And all the white crusty stuff will get on the outside, and that will push to shove everything that's in front of it. All right, now this is something that really needs to be looked at very carefully, very soon, because we need to do something about our planet issues and our, energy issues. And if we could have free energy, which I believe, once again, this right here, I think, could give us free energy. And I mean quick. I mean quick. Everything's available right now. It's just got to be put together. Somebody's got to tune up a good Venturi design and get it ready. I'm 100% willing to help. And again, if somebody can do something, we need to make this widely understood and at least discussed. If I am crazy, I'm crazy. But I don't think you can call me crazy without investigating what I'm saying. And that's what's been done to this very day. And it's strictly an academic status situation where the egos cannot accept anyone coming in and disrupting their grasp. Now, I didn't want to jump in on any of this. I tried to give this to everybody. I didn't say, I want money, I want this. I don't want anything. I don't want anything whatsoever. I don't even care if my name is known. All I care about is that we can get some free energy and get the people on the earth living a good life. And it's being able to stay in their own countries, grow their own food, stay warm, clean their own water. Lighting, you could grow your own food. With energy, you could do anything you want. Anything you want. And if you don't have to create energy grids, you can just carry something in and put it on a counter and plug into it. Nothing gets better than that. You just plug it into your car and you just go forever. This, and I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, the whole world changes literally overnight. There's nothing here that is, this is the simplest device you can build. Absolutely, totally, devastatingly simple. And should be absolutely, phenomenally efficient. So, I suppose that's Roger's last words for today. I'm hoping somebody will stand up and I keep hearing everybody, I want to do this, we're trying to, take a look at what I'm saying. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong. But spending the kind of money they're spending to back up the people that refuse to look at what I'm saying, that's money not well spent. And those are people not really fit to be doing that job. If their job is investigation and experimentation and exploration and all of that stuff that they tout, that is just not the case. It is a denialist system we have right now. And I can guarantee you that, and I have a lot of emails to back me up by some of the top people in the world that just had nothing to do with anything of reality. Stay away. Stay away. We don't want to see it. That's the situation we're in. That needs a book, and it needs a documentary. All right? Thank you, my friends. All right, so don't forget now, I'm looking for somebody to do a documentary on this. We need to get this information out. That is light from a red pulse laser. Light is light. And what is it doing here? It's concussing with all the other electric particles that are in the air because they all have fields. This has a gigantic field surrounding it, which is this particle looks something like this. Now, that particle is accelerated here, and the actual particle itself is being pulled out of the wave. And then the reverse concussion, it's called reverse EMF, electromotive force. It creates this enormous explosion, hundreds of times more energetic than the input value. as I've been saying. And this is the particle. This is another thing totally not understood. It is a particle, but the particle has a huge wave of magnetic influence. Just as you take two magnets and push them back and forth, they try to repel each other in a certain polarities. These will always try to repel when they are apart like this, and when they are together like this. When they're apart, and you only have what you would call an electron, all right, because this is a photon. An electron is basically half of that. This is what an electron would look like. All right, just want this two particles. And that will go and fuse into stuff and burn things and cause a hell of a lot of problems. This is a four-banger. And when it goes through the air and spins, it spins like this. And the forward-leading one that is white, there's going to be a white one and a black one. The one that's the white one will charge up. And it will get all charged up, and then it will flip. And you'll have an up spin, and then you'll have a down spin. So the white one will be up front first, and then the lower one will be up front after the first one charges up. And I'll show you that particle actually charging as it's going through the air. These experiments are done, the research is complete, and the information is in, and here it is, exactly what CERN wants. The muon neutrino just going on its own way, being the black ball, which we see here. The electron neutrino, the white ball, which I showed you a moment, now exploding into electron showers. And the reason this happens is this is the photons enhanced. All right, that's that black and white particle. They call them 2p, 2h. 2p's are the particles, which are the glowers, and 2h's are the holes. And Cornell says if we can create these, we can get free energy. Absolutely, that's their statements, excess energy observed. And they just don't know how to do it. Well, we do. We can create them all day long. It's vast quantities for free. This is the leader. It's going this way. Remember I said it's going to charge up and flop? Well, it's charging because it's pushing against all these little particles. That's why it's getting so glowy. This one here, the glowy other part, which we look here, you don't really see a big difference. But when you look at it in this special app where it shows where are the intense particles, it doesn't have the energy this does. That's because this one's charging as it moves forward. Now that one will, as soon as this gets so energetic, it'll say bloop, and it'll flop to the back, and that one will go in the front. Now you have an upspin. This is a downspin, that's an upspin. And that's the muon wobble. These are the muons. These are the electron neutrinos. Muon neutrinos, electron neutrinos. The muon neutrinos just go on their way, and they call them muons because they're separate. The electron neutrinos separate from the muon neutrinos, but they turn into showers. Seen it, shown it, and that's what they want to see. The two of them together, and the two of them separated. Muon black ball goes on its way, the white goes into gigantic gigantous electron showers. All right. Here's the particles stacking up. Bam! She's opening up and heading her own way. And at this point, it's a total separation of powers. I never thought it was possible. And here is what they call the interference patterns. They're not interference patterns. This is a single slit. This is not a dual slit, where one of them's flopping this way and they're all flopping back and forth between two slits. That's totally wrong. These are repulsion patterns. What happens is, as the white ones never want to be next to each other. That's why they explode like this. They cannot let their fields crush each other's fields. It's not allowed. But we forced it. And we forced it, and I believe we forced it because of the pulsation and the dark matter and the exact tune of the Venturi. There's a little bit of engineering here, not difficult. Because this was just an accident. You know, how lucky can you get? I mean, just this unbelievable. Rod Warren did this, absolutely phenomenal. Anyway, and I give him all the credit in the world for sticking with this. He's not an atomic guy at all, but he just did this, and I saw what he did, and I went ballistic. And he helped me over the course of years, and I'm talking years. We started this about 2015. So, and we're still working at it together today. He's still doing them today. He's got a channel, it's called Rod Warren, and he really, all he does is do, you know, he just shows little clips of things like this. He's not a talker. He doesn't get into the atomic of it. I'm totally on that side of it. And without his research doing this, showing these events, I could never ever hope to present my electron flood theory in a material, substantive way, which I can. And it's still rejected. So that's the problem when people won't look at something because they've been told not to look at it. That's when you lose sight of science, and we've lost total sight of science. It's just totally out of control in the hands of people that have no really regard for the truth. It's strictly to protect their own interests of, that they're the experts. That's what I found, and I'm telling you, in every single field. It's not just one, it's right across the board. And I do understand it now because I've studied how the peer review system works and how the status works and how awards work and funding and the insecurity of the academics in their own environment. They are fragile. They cannot speak. They are under the thumbs of the administrators that say, if you say anything bad, you're going to cast a bad shadow on our image, so you'll have to go. So you have to say what we tell you to say, and then the students have to say what you tell them to say, or they're going to go out and make us look bad by not saying what you told them to say. So fail them if they don't say what you tell them to say, and we'll keep their money. And if you don't do what we're telling you to do, we will peer review you right out of existence, because that's their backup bunch of bullies. Really, I mean, I'm not kidding you. They are bullies. They will not listen. They will not talk. They will not interact, and they will demean and very, very bad group of people in my mind. Because they have to conform with each other, or they lose their status as even being a peer reviewer. Well, you can't let that guy peer review. He thinks he's talking to Roger. I'm not kidding you. The first interaction I had, I was put on an academic spam list. I don't think I get through to anybody anymore. And I'm on every spam list there is. And on YouTube, I get shut down all the time. On Facebook, I'm just about fed up with there, because I go against their policy by showing things like this, because it doesn't conform with the mainstream science. And it's same thing with my mud fossils. I show things like this. This is material existence of something. And I say, well, that's spam, and it's false advertising. I don't know, false everything. So in other words, if you don't follow what you're being told to say, you're out of the loop. That's why I got to do something. I got to get out of this box. They've got me so far off the grid that I cannot get through to anybody that has any weight. And I need somebody that's a heavyweight to just say, look, just take a look at it. See what you think. This guy could be insane. He could be the most crazy person on the face of the earth. But if he's not totally 100% crazy, even if he's 1% uncrazy, well, that's 1% of the uncraziness that I've been showing is more than they've been showing in the last 50 years in any science. There's no material evidence of anything. Everything is theoretical nonsense now. And I mean, I hate to go down that road, but when they won't address what I'm showing, and the mud fossils, and the CAT scans, and the DNA, and the anatomist reports, and the specimens, and the light research, and all the way down into the biology now, which is in the gut microbiome, that's starting to be understood a little bit now too. But they're still not talking about it. Even the latest report from the National Institute of Health about COVID. I'll show you what they say. You see this? This is from the National Institute of Health. This is on 2021. I posted this on YouTube. I got a week suspension and a strike against me for posting what the National Institute of Health said about probiotics and the prevention and treatment of COVID-19. Whoops. Now, hold on. All right, here's the conclusion by the National Institute of Health about probiotics, which I have been touting for many years now, because it's the gut probiotics that make everything in your body. Your body does nothing without the bacteria. And once you kill the bacteria from antibiotics, you're in trouble. And everybody's got compromised systems now because their bacteria is not in good shape from a lot of people. They're not eating right. They've had antibiotics. There's all kinds of environmental things now that are causing issues with the bacteria in your body that's supposed to flourish and create all of these different products for you to live. Well, evidence supports probiotics' role in regulating the immune system. That means they can create mucus and serosa and catalysts and enzymes and all that. So that's how your immune system regulates itself. If you don't have mucus, you can't slime your digestive system, you get invaded. So it says there's a definitive role for probiotics in viral infections. And then it comes down here about probiotics can inhibit cytokine storms by simultaneously boosting your innate immune system and evading how long it takes to adapt to the immunity of this new disease, which is challenged to respond quickly to this really devastating onslaught. Probiotics induce suppression. They say it induces suppression of the inflammatory cytokine response, may prevent both the severity and occurrence of acute respiratory distress symptoms, making probiotics an attractive add-on to whatever you're doing now. And then they go on about it and say, however, there are no random control trials. So why are they not talking about this? This is what upsets me about, we're spending all this money and having all these public things about trying to find, research, and nobody listens to it. I haven't heard a single word. If you have heard a word about probiotics from anybody on the news or anywhere, I'd love to hear it. And I'd love to have somebody start talking about it. Nobody could talk about it. I think I understand why that is too, which is kind of distressing. Because if they think this is any other way other than a vaccine, which people might start to think, oh, I can just take probiotics. Well, now they don't want anybody to start thinking that. But if you don't have the probiotics to begin with, you're immunocompromised. Even if you get your vaccine, you're going to be sick afterwards. You're never going to get better. That's what the long haulers are. They're still being invaded by these same things. They're just being stopped a little bit. You've been immunized a little bit because you have enough to fight them off for a while, but then they're going to come back at you because you still got holes in your system. These are the kind of things we need to present in a public forum where we can talk about them, and then researchers can look into this. But when they put this, I know for a fact, I called all kinds of doctors. Nope, nobody has ever heard about it. Nope, never heard about it. Nope. No clue whatsoever. I said, what do you think about probiotics? And 90% of them, it can't hurt. That kind of thing is what I hear now. Before they'd say, I'd be careful of that. I'm not kidding you. They're, no, you're going to really mess up your digestive system with that kind of stuff. They used to tell me that all the time. It's, and if you look up any single disease whatsoever, I don't care what disease you have, even acne, put it in and say followed by digestive disorders, Crohn's disease, all those kind of things. It'll say you have irritable bowel syndrome when you get this kind of a disease. It causes irritable bowel syndrome. No, irritable bowel syndrome causes the disease. And your gut regulates everything in your body. If your digestive system doesn't work correctly, you don't have the products, you don't have the mucus, you don't have the serosa, and now they know that all of this bacteria can flow completely through the system into what they call an interstitial highway. Well, that's what I call it anyway. Interstitium is a brand new organ system in the body they found. They didn't realize it functioned in the way it functions until a couple years ago. And what it is, it allows all of this bacteria to flow through your entire body. So the bacteria that's flourishing in your gut can either puts its products in your interstitial fluid and they go around, or it sends bacteria out. I believe the bacteria have to be living, well, I know they do. They're living in they call it membrane-bound bacteria, and they live in these fluid-filled sacs. Let me just show you, because this is brand new. All right, this is the interstitium, and this was just recently considered a new organ system, and they say they overlooked it because by the time they get them into autopsies, they're flat as a pancake, and you lose all this fluid. Now, in my mud fossils, of course, I showed you all the stuff I have that they have that interstitium still in the fluid-filled conditions like this. A lot of them, because they're exactly completely preserved, only now they are turned into stone. But I can see these fluid-filled bags, and I could see all these little balls, and I could see all this stuff. So I got a hold of Gil Headley. That goes back, 10 or more years. Because he was the only guy I could find that was into fascia, which is what this really is, fascia. And because it's the membrane coatings. This is the mucosa. This keeps everything on that side out. Now, whether it's skin or the membranes around your tendons, your muscles, your organs, every single thing, your eyeballs, everything has a membrane around it. Keep the bad stuff out and keep the good stuff in. Well, it has to let good stuff come in, and it has to keep bad stuff out. Very, very sophisticated device. And it is run by bacteria that live in these bags. These are fluid-filled sacs, fluid-filled spaces, they call. And you could pull this and pull this, pull that way, and that's how you can move around and you don't rip your body apart. See these little brown things? Those are springs. The pinky-looking stuff here is a floppy, just flappy collagen, and these are another type of collagen, but it's stiffer. And the reason it's stiffer is so that these can pull and stretch and do this, and the fluid will glob this way and glob that way, but the spring will bring it back so that it comes back to where it's supposed to. And the spring is anchored with a ball. You see the balls? Every spring has to be anchored. Then you have the fluid-filled sac. All the bacteria is in here. Now, if something tries to invade you, the bacteria will create mucus instantaneously, and it will push the stuff out and say, just keep going, go, get it, stay out of here, get away. And that's what your nose creates, runny nose and all that stuff. Something's trying to get you, more than likely, when you get that kind of a reaction. Now, whether it's pollen or all kinds of things try to break into your system, and your system rejects them if it's working correctly. And that requires a bacteria. No question whatsoever. Without the bacteria, you're sick. You're going to be sick. You're going to be immunocompromised. You're going to be open to invasion. You're not either that, or you're not going to be able to create the the products that the bacteria create, because the bacteria create catalysts and enzymes. Those are nothing more than chemistry sets. And the bacteria make them absolutely elegantly. And that's what they also make. Immunities. And that's why your body has the ability to have an immunity control system. But it has to have seen the invader before. That's the problem with this COVID. Nobody's ever seen this invader before. Brand new. They call it a novelty, a novel disease. It's novelty. Brand new. So your immune system says, I never saw that thing before. I said, what do we do? And I said, well, I don't know. And then it creates what they call a cytokine storm. And a cytokine storm says, I don't have the products to deal with this thing that's trying to attack me. So I'm just going to try to attack it with everything in my body that I have that fights. And something's maybe going to hit it. And that's when you start to attack your own body, because there's so much fighting going on here that says, I'm going to beat up anybody that comes around me. And the other guy says, yeah, me too. Yeah, let's get anybody comes around here. And then all of a sudden they start fighting among themselves. That's what appears to happen. That's called a cytokine storm. What you need is to have the exact chemistry, and that can happen almost instantly. It can squirt out chemistry and deliver it out to kill this invader. And where it gets the program to do that, I believe, is in what they call the CPG islands, which are regions in the brain, or actually it's in the DNA molecules. And in that DNA molecule, there's a program that's stored in what they call the CPG islands. And you say, well, where is that in the DNA, Roger? What's the CPG island? I said, well, it's in what they call a junk DNA. That's where your immune system is. That's where all the programs are. that control the responses of your bacteria. So you have a sniffer bacteria here that says, I'm getting invaded by this COVID thing. It says, does anybody ever know anything about that? And maybe, yes, if you did know about it, it would go up to the CPG islands. Oh, yeah, I know about that. Well, really, the CPG islands is where it's stored in the brain or in the DNA. I guess it's really in the DNA is where it's going to be looking to. But it's going to take that code, and the bacteria is going to make a chemistry set. And it's so specific. They say that the bacteria, when they make an enzyme, it is absolutely 100% targeted at an exact piece of chemistry, that particular species. And there's thousands and thousands of different species in your body. So you can create all kinds of different, extremely elegant molecules. And that's what they do. When they're dead, you're dead. You're in trouble. You're going to get invaded. You can't stop it. And that's what they call immunocompromised. And you have different bacteria living in every different place in your body. Your gut bacteria is 100% different than the bacteria that's in your eyeball or in your nose or in your throat or in your intestines or in your stomach. And every single one of them has bacteria. Every single one of them, but it's all different. Because it has to create different products and it has to create different immunities to different types of invasion. And a lot of these different organs and so forth have extremely different types of chemistry. Kidneys and your liver, bile and all of that stuff, acid in your stomach, a totally different chemistry. It has to be dealt with by totally different biology and bacteria. And the bacteria is what the biology is. All of this stuff is just housing for bacteria. I'm not kidding you. I've come to the conclusion that we literally are just an accumulation of bacteria. And you can become smarter and smarter and smarter by using your CPG islands in the DNA to just understand things. And that's where your intelligence comes from. Your brain is an organ that coordinates everything. Yes, I have to agree with that. But I think your DNA really, literally, is where your memories are stored and all that in these CPG islands. And the reason I say that is because an identical twin will have identical DNA to his identical counterpart. The CPG islands will be identical. The junk DNA will be identical. However, it's junk because it's different for everybody. And they say, why is it junk? Well, guess what? That kid, in his DNA, has immunities that the mother had through her life. That's how the kid comes out with immunities built in. And those are in these junk DNAs. I'm almost certain of this. I'd love to see some studies done on it. But my point being with the twins, the junk DNA starts identical. So they both have the same immunities, they both have the same everything in them, and then one kid will go a little this way and the other one will go a little that way. And the junk DNA just keeps changing. That's why they say, it's just junk, it means nothing. No, it doesn't. It means that's his experiences, and that's the other one's experiences. That's his immunities, and then the other one's immunities. They have different. This guy might have had a traumatic experience versus this one. This one might have been almost drowned, and this one might have been the hell beat out of him or sexually abused or whatever. Those are memories that are stored in these CPG islands that can be recalled out of these DNA strands. This is why I say there's so much to understand now that has been disregarded and pushed against. This is my issue. It's pushed against. When you bring something forward now, there is no interest. There's no questions. There's nothing that's other than go look it up. We already know all about this. Leave it to the pros. We are the ones that control what you have to say and think. And that never worked for me. It still doesn't. And guess what? I learned about Interstitium as I kept searching the universe and the world. I learned this, that it comes from very, very, very large creatures as well. These are those interstitium balls. This is the red interstitium fleshy watery fluid bags, fleshy looking. The balls are embedded in there, and the straps and so forth. That is the mucosa. Take your time. Look at those balls. Look at this flesh. Look at the mucosa. Look at the mud, which is the mucosa turning into what we call mud. And then look at this and see if you see any difference. All right, I guess I'm leave it at this for today. I'm just going to show you one more quick shot at the different things we're going to be looking through about phonons and all this new research they're doing. But a lot of it, I'm telling you right now, is based on what I'm showing you right here. Acceleration of actual photons, not particles that are gigantic. And then watching them separate into the black particle and the white particle right here. That's fission. Back to fusion. This is cold desktop fusion using light, not using heavy particles. This is the holy grail. This is the key. This is the key. And also we understand that light is a particle, because that's a particle. They come from the sun. We scrub through them. This is the key to our overheating, is the scrub. Through the galaxy, we are really tearing things up. And we don't know the density that we are approaching. That's the other problem. We also know we have an issue with what we've been told about geology and even biology. So everything needs to be reevaluated, and the only way I could think I'm going to be able to do this is just to write a book and just do one chapter at a time about why this is an issue and why this is an issue. And I need it backed up with some kind of a documentary. I need somebody to come on board and help out, but I need somebody with a big enough audience that it can do something, because I'm just talking against a wall now. I only have a few people that really pay any attention, and they have no influence over others. They're shunned as I am as well. Okay, this is basically what we did. Spontaneous muon emission during fission. That's what we did. Fission created the muons, new nuclear radioactivity. Now, they realized they can see its understanding of the so-called two-particle, two-hole, which is the 2 pH, the 2 blacks, 2 whites, is an urgent program. They want to create an urgent program in neutrino interaction physics. Such processes are believed to be responsible for the event excesses, that means free energy, observed by recent neutrino experiments. This goes back to 2013, I believe, somewhere around there. Yeah, 2013. And we were starting to do the same research basically in the same time frame, and it was rejected by everybody, and they just walked away from it. And then CERN, Fermilab took over, and it's been just nothing since. You see, this is about a royal institution, how to tell somebody how to talk to a science denier. That's how they talk to me. And he says, tell them you're going to meet with them, and then not show up so they look like an idiot. This is Lee McIntyre, and this is the Royal Institution. Can you imagine that? What makes a child smart? Thinking for themselves. Health conditions, radiology, multiple myeloma, common symptoms, fecal transplants. That's something that they should look into, because they're finding that actually mice can come back in their mental capabilities, they say. I don't know how they test that, but after a fecal transplant. And it's everything in your body is microbiome. I'm telling you right now. They knew this many, 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 many years ago. What was his name? Hippocrates said all disease starts in the gut. Now we're going to go look at telluric currents. You probably never even heard of those. Those are the low earth currents. We're going to look at the Department of Energy, who has me blocked, and what they say about muons. They're going to explain muons, and this is Fermilab. I'm blocked from Fermilab. I can't comment there. So, and these are phonons. We're going to look into that. This is phonons explained. This is the new formation of matter, quadruplets. They keep trying to come. This is just 2 days ago. I know they're looking at my research. They have to be. I presented all this to everybody in the world 6 years ago. 100% of them. And with all my documentation to go along, videos and everything, I got some responses, and oh yeah, that's fabulous, have a nice day. Now, this is the fireflies. Now, John Glenn saw these little particles, which are light. They are light particles. Now, then Scott Carpenter went up and he said, oh, I banged on the side of the thing, on the side of the capsule, and out came these little fireflies, the same thing that Glenn saw, so they got to be snowflakes. Well, there's not snowflakes out in space. What he did was when he banged on something, he literally drove electrons off the surface into the oncoming solar illumination. The solar rays were coming down. He banged on the side of it. And when you bang on something, it sends particles out, exactly identical to sound waves. Sound waves are nothing more than particles. They're just going slow and they don't have a lot of impact. But you shoot enough sound waves or something, you can knock it over. They're particles. And that's what he did. He went bang, and off flew all these little electrons, and then the sun hit them and they charged them up and they saw them. He said, oh, there they are, here's those fireflies, it's all over. No, it wasn't all over. This is what about this EMC? This is European Muon Consortium, I think. And this is all science, physics defying mystery. Well, I understand this to 100%. We're going to go through that. This is biology and physics. It's time to look at this in a whole new light. This guy is we got to look at all this stuff in a whole new way. Muons, what they are, and here I showed you what they are. There's that little flashy jobbers. Brave New World. You should listen to this. This is fabulous. Wait, I just got to play the first minute. Where do you hear this? Come on, Aldous, can I make you go back? Yes, I can. Back to the beginning of time. Where do you hear this? I think it's probably about here. Hold on.
His own inventions. Science, tech.
Hold on. Let me start from the beginning. This is great. Now, this is 1956. He's on a radio broadcast, and he's talking about his book that went back 20 years earlier and what he had predicted for the future. Listen to this. Aldous Huxley, fabulous.
Ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished author, Mr. Aldous Huxley.
Brave New World is a fantastic parable about the dehumanization of human beings. In the negative utopia described in my story, man has been subordinated to his own inventions. Science, technology, social organization, these things have ceased to serve man. They have become his masters.
Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. When he actually pretends he's living in this world that he's created. It's just unbelievably great. And when he went after, he wrote it and said it's 600 years in the future, this is what things are going to be like. When he came back 20 years after writing the book, and on here, he said, if I knew what I know now, I'd say this is going to be 200 years in the future. Well, I'm going to tell you what. Basically, almost everything he's saying is happening right as we're speaking. So it doesn't. We're moving warp speed into this disaster, but he is so good.
A quarter of a century has passed since the book was published. In that time, our world has taken so many steps in the wrong direction that if I were writing today, I would date my story not 600 years in the future, but at the most 200. The price of liberty, and even of common humanity, is eternal vigilance.
Yeah, he's right about that. All right, so anyway, that's another topic we're going to go down. Oh, what do we got? All right, atmospheric layers. We're going to go into this because this is what causes the resonance effect. As the electrons pile up and then they have to discharge into the next layer, they bounce back, discharge, bounce back, boom, 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 and then the Earth sucks them in. So there's your resonance layers, and this is going to be about the and then we're going to get into the carbon dioxide emissions. Why is carbon dioxide supposed to be so bad for the environment? Well, it's expansion gases, really. And then the temperatures on a space station and in outer space and how to control them and all that different stuff. And it goes on and on and on. We got a lot of stuff to go over. All right? Thank you for paying attention. I hope you're paying attention. If you're not, you should be. And we can get free energy. I need somebody to assist. We need to get this information out in a major way. And I'm going to do what I can, but I need help. I cannot do it myself. I'm 73 years old. I'm working hard at this, but there's only so much I can do, and I think I've done about as much as I can. So I can be a content provider. I have tons and tons of content, and it goes back 50 years. I didn't just start this yesterday. I have information, and I said electron flood theory based. I didn't call it that back then, but I said there is nothing but dipoles. It has to be dipoles. You can't have just a big gigantic positive core and a few little electrons floating around it. It'd just be nothing but one little piece. It never made any sense. But as soon as they said this is what you have to believe in order to get into physics and be allowed to speak, then all you did now after that is draw doodles that had no meaning whatsoever other than to make you look like you were a better doodler than the next guy down the street. And I can tell you who makes the best doodles ever is Don Lincoln at Fermi Lab. I call him Doodle Don. Doodle Dandy Don. And he has no idea what they mean. He doesn't think light is even a particle. And he refuses to look at my muon research because I'm not peer reviewed. That's the kind of people we have running things. I think that's not good for society in general. But anyway, this is Roger. Have a sterling day, my friends.